the moment England said no to tyranny. Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me again. I wanted to talk today about a different element of our constitution. It's one that isn't heard that much, and it's referred to as, or is called, the Petition of Rights. And this dates back to 1628. Again, for those who don't think our constitution is any way codified or written down, there you go, there's another element. For the rest of you who have a genuine interest in our constitution, I'll explain a bit more about the Petition of Rights, because it does form a key building block to the later elements, which lays out in more detail more of our rights. So how did it come about? Well, this goes back to King Charles I's reign. King Charles thought he was above the law, thought he alone was in charge, and he would go around, he was going around taxing people. He was embedding soldiers within people's homes, barracking them in people's homes, using up their resources. He was treating the laws, if he didn't apply, he would lock people up without a trial. He was trying to raise armies at the same time. He basically was a nasty piece of work. Bearing in mind, at that time, the Magna Carta was in place that gave us our rights, and both the 1215, the original version, and the 1275 enacted in Parliament, which gave Parliament the authority over the King, because it was acting on behalf of the people. So Parliament had had enough of King Charles' antics, and they reminded him via the Petition of Rights, a bill they created, that he was not above the law. And it wasn't an attempt to add any more rights or change anything that currently existed at that time. It was merely them reaffirming the ancient rights that the people of the nation had. This Petition of Rights reminded Charles that he could not raise taxes. That was the job of Parliament. He couldn't jail anyone without cause. Again, they had to have a trial. They had to have justice under the law. He was further reminded that you can't quarter soldiers in people's homes. That's definitely wrong. And he was reminded you can't rule by the sword in peacetime. That's just very wrong. So it wasn't so much as a rebellion at that time. It was just a resistance, a lawful resistance, by them petitioning the monarch and expecting him to sign this particular document. It was loud and it was clear that the king is under the law the same as everybody else. And at that one moment, ordinary men shaped the future of English politics. They changed the future of the English constitution, because that one act led eventually to the Bill of Rights in 1688, habeas corpus, and even went on to form the American Constitution, which was based very much on those documents. So big changes just from that one tiny action. The trouble being, when Parliament confronted Charles, although he signed the document, he basically ignored it. He took the decision, in fact, to dissolve Parliament, because as far as he was concerned, he was king, he did what he wanted to do. So for about 11 years, the country had no Parliament, it had no representation. He carried on with his antics of taxing and all the other things he was getting up to, and tempers started to get very frayed. You could feel the tension in the air. Doesn't this sound very familiar to Parliament today? Just throwing that in. But alas, his antics got himself into trouble, because he eventually ran out of our money. That's right, he taxed us to death, to the point where there was nothing more to give, and he was skint. So he recalled Parliament. But by now, MPs were very suspicious of him, and it was blatantly obvious he was just trying to manipulate Parliament to boost his own powers and authority, and find other ways of robbing the people and getting more money. And Parliament wasn't having any of it. So in 1640, Parliament is reinstated. But by 1642, any sense of normality with the monarch had gone, and this led to the Civil War, the English Civil War. This was basically Parliament versus the King. And as you know, if you know your English history, Charles I was defeated in this battle. He lost the war. He was eventually put on trial, in fact. Again, kings are not above the law. He was found guilty, obviously, and sentenced to death. That was the first time that a king was held accountable under the law. King Charles I was followed by King Charles II, and while there was some restoration involved, he was still very much a tyrant and still had very much similar outlook on the positions of the monarchy. So it wasn't fully resolved until 1668 with the Bill of Rights. And that was the Glorious Revolution. So this was a peaceful revolution, and William and Mary, William of Orange, was asked to become monarch, and he agreed to sign our Bill of Rights. And that was the beginning, if you like, of the current Parliament as we have it now, where the monarch and Parliament work very much together. But the principle of Petition of Right is in place to this day. It's going to be very interesting to see how this works out with the current King Charles, to see how this pans out, because people are now petitioning the monarch, King Charles III, as a pre-action to further action, to basically say it's time that Parliament was brought to heel. They have enacted numerous acts that have been signed off by the monarch when they should have been booted, because they went against our Constitution. These rights that have been in place since 1215, since Magna Carta, they're enshrined in law that no Parliament ever has the power to change, and yet they were just signed off by the monarch. So we have this position now where numerous acts have been enabled to various monarchs throughout history, which are against the Constitution and fall foul of the Constitution and need to be removed. And so at the moment, one man, Graham Moore from the English Constitution Society, has started a petition by writing to the monarch, explaining this is a pre-action protocol letter, so further action will be taken if the monarch fails to put right what his predecessors should have put right by not enabling the laws when they were first presented. And that is the position of the monarch. The monarch is there to hold Parliament to account. So when an act is put before the monarch that contravenes our Constitution, they are supposed to prevent it going any further. Anyway, that's why I wanted to talk about the Petition of Right, because it's a vital stepping stone, a keystone for our Constitution, building blocks that the rest of it is built on, and it's a very important document for us to adhere to today. And I would say that all the people who are out marching all the time, if instead of marching they wrote a letter to the monarch, properly laid out as they're supposed to be presented, then it might have more effect than walking up and down the street. That's just my opinion. Anyway, I hope you found this a little bit more useful, to put a bit more information on the Constitution. I'll be back for some more, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you for watching. Take care.